Share screen.
JC's here, and so is Kendall. Yay! Welcome, welcome. And
Welcome, welcome.
Tammy, I think it's my friend Tammy who didn't pick us up in Seattle, um,
She was
but
in.
she says her name is Tammy Shar, so that could be somebody different.
Could be somebody different. That's right.
I don't know. Well, welcome everybody. We are so glad you're here,
Yeah.
and you get to hang out with us with our friends Michaela and Aletheia.
Yeah, let's get this started officially. So, welcome one and all to another episode of TCK Live. I'm Brett Taylor with Interaction International, and I'm joined with my amazing colleague, Cheryl O'Brien, our TCK specialist and sometimes a Disney princess. Woo, she pulled it off at the last minute.
I did. Mr. Bingley tried to run away with it the other day.
Your dog tried to steal the crown.
Oh.
I love it. Hey, welcome everyone. We have a special guest on today. If you were coming to learn about the holistic TCK care assessment, that had to get rescheduled for next year, so 2023. So check out, we'll have that rescheduled soon. But instead, better than one is two. We have Michaela and Aletheia, and they're going to be sharing about what it's like coming back from living overseas and dealing with transition. So we'll be diving into that shortly. So thank you for joining us. If this is your first time on TCK Live, welcome. We love those of you guys who watch us live, whether on Facebook streaming or if you're joining us on Zoom. Happy to have you guys here. Let us know where you're joining us from. Write that into the comments, or if you're on Zoom, write it into the chat. And we're going to dive into things in just a little bit. Just want to make you aware of a few things coming up as I try and click two things at once. And that just isn't very practical for all intents and purposes. Next, in 2 weeks, on November 30th, we will have our friend Megan Norton coming, and she will be talking about adult TCKs learning to belong beyond borders. Probably somewhat of a carryover conversation about what we're talking about today, and particularly Megan's going to be sharing about her new book that is just coming out, so very excited about that. If you are and haven't bought Faith on the Move yet, please consider doing that. I think you'll love it. You might even hear them talking a little bit about it today. And Cheryl just created a journal version of it because Cheryl likes journals. She likes writing.
I do. I love journals. I like when you ask questions, you should have space to answer the questions. So the journal provides the questions that are in the book, but it also provides space. And it also gives some coaching questions about taking action.
It's really good. Although I would say, Cheryl, I have space in my head to answer the questions sometimes, so I don't have to actually write them out. But
then do you remember what that space was?
No, I don't later. So probably I should get a journal.
Probably so.
Hey, if you're part of an organization and trying to do TCK care, we'd love to help you learn how to do that better. Foundations kicks off on January 25th next year, and we have 2 spots left for the cohort. So love to have you join us. And you can find out all the stuff Interaction is doing at interactionintl.org or shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So, Cheryl, with no much further ado, or whatever those fancy words are in French that I don't learn how to speak much, tell us about our guests. Introduce them to us.
We have 2 fabulous guests today.
Yes.
TCKs, OGs from our TCK Connect, and just a fantastic people. So Aletheia was born here in America, and then when she was 6 years old, her parents uprooted her, took her to France to learn French, and then they moved to Cameroon, where she has been basically since she graduated from high school earlier this year. She's currently at John Brown University in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and she's studying creative writing. And actually, she's in the midst of NaNoWriMo, writing a novel in the month of November, so she should be at about 25,000 words today, I'm guessing.
I'm at 28,000.
She is an overachiever, for sure. So that's Aletheia. And then we have Michaela, who I have known since before TCK Connect. I've known Michaela since, well, she was 3 and bossing her older brothers around. There was no doubt in anyone's mind who was in charge, and it was Michaela. She was born and grew up in Lublin, Poland, and that's basically been her home until she came back to the States. She's currently in Madison, Wisconsin, going to Edgewood College and studying nursing, so she can take care of the world at some point. If you're joining us and you are a TCK Connect aficionado, you might see some things in her background that point to her Connect days. So those are our guests. I am so glad you're both here, and you can help me keep Brett like on track and in line. And the big question though for the moment is, what's in your cup? So Michaela, what are you drinking today?
Hot chocolate.
Ooh, yummy. Aletheia, what are you drinking?
Coffee.
Nice. Brett, what's in your cup?
I only had time to fill up my water, so that's all I got today. I really want something nice and warm because it's starting to get cold here, so I'm like just looking for hot chocolate
Only
or
starting?
chai, but that's all I got today. Just water.
I've got water and I've got an iced peppermint mocha because it's like 83 degrees here today. So it looks like online water is winning with the most. Water has 67% of the share. Coffee, tea, chai have a third of the share. So with our contributions, water still wins. So cheers, everybody. I'm going to double cheer. Woo, cheers. I'm so glad you all are here.
Thank you for joining us. And yes, if this is your first time joining us, we'd love to have you join the conversation as well. If you have questions for the ladies today, write them into the chat, or better, if you're on Zoom, there's that Q&A button. Best place to do it. Cheryl's trying to monitor Facebook Live, and so if you have questions there, write them in. But let's dive in here a little bit. Aletheia, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I knew her previously by her secret code name. But as you go to college, you have to change your name. So I'm trying to she's going through
People
the
just can
rebranding.
pronounce
I'm a little
my
slow on
name.
this, but Aletheia, tell us, you lived in Cameroon, and what was it like leaving there in general? How would you describe to people? How was it? Was leaving there easy? You're ready to get out of there, ready to move on with life? Was it hard? Somewhere betweens?
Leaving Cameroon was a very mixed bag for me, because I loved the Cameroon specific culture, and I was really sad to be leaving a lot of that because of COVID, some of the time scale of leaving was, and finding community in Cameroon was weird. Because in high school I actually moved from one part of the country to a different part of the country,
Within
and then
Cameroon.
COVID shut everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd only in the last 2 years of living in Cameroon, I'd only started finally getting a community where I lived. And so a lot of my friends were actually a lot older than me, and were getting married and having kids, and I was watching their kids go from newborns to starting to walk, and now I'm seeing pictures of them walking. I'm like, who said you could grow up? So that's been kind of hard, but that was really difficult. But I was also, on the other hand, very ready to leave, because I was kind of excited to be outside of living with my parents, and outside of living in a missionary bubble all the time. I was kind of excited to not have to live and breathe school, high school anymore. So it was kind of a mixed bag of, I want to leave, I want to be done with high school.
Yes.
But I don't want to leave Cameroon yet.
Ready to start adulting, not ready to leave Cameroon, but kind of ready because you had just started connecting, not connecting.
Yeah.
Hot mix of a mixed bag. All right.
And I just have to say that whole thing about, watching people grow up from a distance. Welcome to adulting.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Michaela, how about you living in Poland? And I think maybe for people who are watching this and are just aware, yesterday there was some, we don't know what the background story is, will probably unfold, but some missiles landed in Poland, and I'm sure people are concerned about you and your family. People you know, how's everybody?
No, we're all good. It was really close to the Ukrainian border, where the missiles landed. I
Hmm.
don't know what the decision of the Polish government is about it yet.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll unfold. And when some people are watching this, like, oh, we already know. Well, that's good for you. But right now, we're in a place where we don't know. But we do know you, your family, everyone is safe, that you're aware. So, leaving Poland, though, how are you? You just heard her. Was it similar? How's it different?
It was kind of similar. I feel like more for me, I felt like because of COVID, I had a lack of closure on a lot of things,
Hmm.
that just didn't get, like, I didn't get to do certain things that would sort of tie off like the end of high school. Like I didn't have ending exams; they were called off, which was really weird. I'm like, I feel like I cheated my way out of high school. But there are a couple of things like that. I finally felt like I was getting older enough to explore my city and do things in my city, and then shut down. And then I didn't get to. Like I feel like I just got around to figuring the city out a little more, and now I have to go. So
Hmm.
definitely it was a bit of a mixed bag too. I
Yeah.
remember my brother, my youngest brother, he's still older than me, but he's the youngest brother. He stayed in Poland. And I remember when he made that decision, I never understood him. I'm like, why would you stay? There's so many opportunities going back to the US. Like, I sort of always knew or always even fantasized about, like, I'm going to get to go to college in the US. I'll finally find people who understand me. I don't know why I had that thought, but I had that thought. Um, and then the closer it came to leaving, the more I'm like, I really understand my brother, and I kind of really don't want to go, but I also owe it to myself to be American for a few years.
Both of your parents are Americans by,
Yeah.
but growing up overseas, so America has those roots in your life. You guys are part of that COVID generation of those who graduated in the midst of that. Michaela, I remember being on our hangouts on our TCK Connects, and you were the weird one saying, "Can you pray? I really hope I get to take my exams." We're like, "Are you crazy? You want to
I
take your
remember
end of year
that. Yeah.
exams?"
And meanwhile, I was celebrating because I didn't have to take mine.
You're
And Michaela graduated a year before Aletheia, so
Yeah.
there's a major shift there too that happened in the world.
Yeah.
mid-pandemic versus kind of
Yeah.
coming out of pandemic. Let's go there for a second though. For you guys, what were you said missing your exams was detrimental to your life, but you had worked so hard in it. And just all fairness for those people who don't understand, she is studious. She worked hard. She was looking forward to the challenge. What other things did you guys feel like you missed out on, or traditions that you knew your predecessors got to do that you missed out on those traditions, if you will? You guys think of anything that besides exams?
I do have a couple. Well, also my high school is 3 years. I spent a year and a half in school and a year and a half online.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
half of my like when I figured that out, I'm like, that is insane. I just spent half of my high school online at
Mhm.
home. But like one thing, sort of the typical thing, I didn't get to have prom. It
Mhm.
doesn't bother me that much now, but at the time I was like, I kind of really wanted to, have prom.
Yeah.
Ah,
Another thing my school did, we would do model United Nations
Mhm.
in December. And that year was the year my class was supposed to, like the seniors were supposed to organize it for everybody else. And we didn't get to do that either.
Mm. It's
Mm.
things you're looking forward to and missed expectations, those kind of almost rites of passages of sorts. Aletheia, how about you?
My school was very interesting. Just because living in like Africa's take on COVID was very different. And the rest of the world, as a continent, but Cameroon specifically, just very, very interesting dynamic. But there were my class was kind of the first class in 2 years who kind of got to do most of the traditions. Finally, like we started opening up enough that we were like, we could do versions of
Mhm.
what all of our predecessors had gotten to do, and then 2 classes hadn't done
Mhm.
before us, which was really cool. And I appreciated that a lot. But it was still really interesting because most of my classmates were all younger siblings who knew
Mhm.
what quote unquote right look or normal looked like, and I didn't. And so it was really interesting because like working with that dynamic and then also having to step up and be the ones to like kind of lead the school out of COVID as like from the student perspective, like be the student leaders leading out of the pandemic
Yeah.
was really hard because we had no examples because everybody before us had been online. And so it was just a really different, like there was no turnover
I never thought
um
about that.
for the senior class, or at least
Mhm.
especially at my school, which was really difficult.
Yeah.
That was just it was a very unique challenge
Yeah, so much
in high school.
learning is from
It
other
was
people's
such a learning
experience.
curve.
You hear about the stories from, the person in the class above you, and you
What
know,
to do, what not to do, how to do it.
yeah.
You go like it's like 2 years of 10th grade, like all of the event practice time that normally you'd get, we didn't get. And so
Mhm.
suddenly it was just jumping into, ah, yes, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it was exciting. It was a challenge for sure.
Yeah. There's definitely a place for those traditions and closing, sometimes
Mhm.
farewells, different areas, different schools will have types of closure and things. What did you guys specifically do in your circumstances to help yourself to prepare for leaving? You knew you're leaving Cameroon, Poland, respectively, heading to the States. You had ideas of that, but we always say it, our transition lounge programs, leave well helps you enter well. How did you guys do on leaving? Did you leave well? What were some of the things you did to try and leave well? Michaela, you got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, since I didn't have exams, I got to, I graduated school earlier because there's that time period for exams. I like traveled so much in May. Right before I came back to the States, I remember I like visited my brother. I like went on vacation with a couple friends. I sort of made sure.
Where is the shelter?
It's downstairs.
I'm gonna remute you, Aletheia.
Um, I like made sure to meet with my friends was kind of my thing. I made sure to see all of them before I left. And then I took many walks through the city and like very tearfully was like goodbye Lublin Castle, goodbye cobblestone streets and stuff like that. So
Okay.
So, just for context, Allie is in her dorm and they're having a tornado drill. So she has to go to the tornado shelter, which is in the basement of her dorm. So she'll be back in a little bit.
Okay. On location, live from a storm shelter. Interesting. Wasn't paying attention to the weather there. Glad you're still with us,
It's a
though.
drill. It's a drill.
oh,
uh,
Drew.
so you were intentional about saying goodbye to people, and you had this in mind that you need to do it and do it well. Do you think
Yeah.
that helped, or I mean, just because we say as practitioners that's a good thing to do, was it?
I think it helped in a lot of ways. I guess I don't know. Actually, I think it was good for me to like see everybody because
Mhm.
I also hadn't seen them all that much because of COVID lockdown.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
We talk about raft sometimes, and David Pollock created an acronym: raft, reconciliation, affirmations, farewell, think destination or think ahead, and implementing that helps you leave well. Did you have those letters in mind, and did you try and do any of that, or did you avoid some of them?
I tried to do that because you on TCK chat you did a whole day talking about it. We did a whole day talking about it,
Oh.
and I think Cheryl, you sent out like a checklist thing. I I think I looked at it I don't know if I filled it out, but I did look at it.
And I started teaching you that when you were 3. So
Yeah, I also yeah, that's been somewhere clunking around in my brain for a while now. So probably reconciliation I may not have done very well. More like reconciling it with myself that I made this choice to leave. I don't think I really reconciled that very well.
And
that's
that's
a good point.
hard to do after leaving. So
Yeah.
people, places, things like that, left undone. Good. Looking back before you left, was there anything you wish you could have done differently? I mean, you said maybe doing reconciliation a little bit better. Any go, oh man, if I could have, or I wish I would have, kicking yourself now. You said your brother stayed for an extra year. You're like, maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. Other
Well,
thoughts?
my brother stayed forever. He didn't even stay for an extra year. He's still there.
Okay.
So there's a part of me that wishes I would have never left. It's probably the weirdly big thing. I have this sort of what if in my mind of like, would I have been good? Like, would it have been good for me to actually just stay? Maybe I go back and forth on there'd be less personal growth, but I maybe would have been more comfortable in life.
That's a great statement, because right when there is personal growth, it's pretty uncomfortable, especially when it's starting.
Oh.
I always think you have to get through the groaning before you can get to the growing.
Definitely still in the groaning part a little bit.
Aletheia is back.
You look like you're the same color paint, or are you back in the same place?
Sorry, there was a tornado drill at my school, because Arkansas. And then I get downstairs and they're like, it's over. And I was like, oh, cool. It's like, she's like, it's fine. You won't get fined, but like, you're doing great. I'm like, okay, cool. So sorry.
All right. Just like you practiced in Cameroon, right?
Sure. Tornadoes in the rainforest. That's definitely what happened.
Well, we'll let you catch your breath there a little bit. Michaela, you attended our online kind of transition seminar, if you will, Wayfinder, when you're first coming back. Any takeaways from that you found that you tried to implement or thought were helpful? Or
it didn't, like, in general, the whole thing was helpful to have people to like talk to weekly when you feel like you don't really know people yet at college. Was good. There's some stuff I do still remember that I try to for some reason the holy heresies are what stick with me the most. Of like,
yeah,
you don't have to know everything, and I'm like, okay, I don't have to know everything. I think just like the whole checklist, the little TCK bingo thing, we had different tasks we had to do. It kind of forced me to step out and do some stuff. I'm also competitive, so I was like, I want to do as much as possible on this list.
For those of you who aren't aware, Michaela, when she's talking about the heresies or holy heresies, it's Tim Sanford's book, I Have to Be Perfect and Other Parsonage Heresies. Great book for MKs and PKs as well, just unpacking lies that are believed from time to time. And the bingo, why don't you tell them a little bit more about the bingo? Of course, it was a game that we set up for you all to do, but what did the bingo slots?
I probably have a screenshot of it somewhere, but it was just like various things, like American things or just adult things that you had to do kind of to check them off, and whoever had the most done. I don't know if we won anything, but we got points. Maybe we won something. I didn't win, but I think I was second.
There you go. Yeah.
I think Brett just makes us all competitive.
I do like a good competition, especially when I win. So
we know.
The good news was he wasn't competing in this one, so. But it was
He was just
like,
there.
go to
I
a
feel like he
parade,
was
right?
Yeah, it was like go to a football game, put gas in a tank, like tell somebody about where you're from, like explain hidden immigrant, just kind of a couple, notice things that are different.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Submit
Alethea,
a TCK moment.
yeah, TCK.
Oh yeah, that too.
Alethea, you were at Transit Lounge with us in Georgia
Yeah.
and hanging out there at the camp with how many was we had a big group your year, I think, right? Was it
It was
It
this
was
last time. It
was it
was pretty
40?
this
big.
We had
summer.
like 40 there, I think. So
Yeah,
It was
wasn't
fun.
wasn't the 60 crazy that we did that one year, but
the year before, yeah.
uh
40 is a good number.
40 is a
40
good
was
number.
fun.
Yeah. We go through a bunch of stuff during that program, and how was that play? I mean, I'm not asking you to pander to us and like, oh my gosh, it changed my life. Like, be real. Like, in what ways are those type of programs helpful, and you recommend or takeaways that you had from it?
Honestly, those kind of programs, you get what you put into it.
Hmm.
And like I know I probably wouldn't recommend them necessarily for some of my siblings just because of their personality, until they're older or just realize maybe this is something I might need. Um, but it was a lot of fun. It was really nice to, especially because like I was how it was placed, it was like right between me finishing my summer and me going to college, which was like the perfect time because I was desperate for some TCK interaction at that point. And I was like, ah, yes, I need people who understand me without having to explain myself.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, I also need to be equipped to go figure out what to do with people who don't understand me just easily. So that was really helpful, and having those tools. It was a really fun camp. We all still talk. Like we made a WhatsApp group and we're all still chatting a lot. We're weird.
Nice.
So it's a good time. But I think the other thing about those camps, like especially the Holy Heresies, was that you kind of realize, like you're old enough to realize finally how much you're like I'm trying to figure out how to say this well. Your perspective shifts on what living overseas was like and what maybe your parents were like and what life was like. And so you suddenly have like a different perspective, and that is just really hard. So being able to talk about some of that ahead of time and realizing like, yes, this is normal, or can be normal, is really good. And I've actually like shown some of my friends now in college my notes from camp because they were really confused what to do with the like friend group of MKs. They're like, you guys are so weird. This is troubling. What's going on? And I was like, here's notes. And they were like, oh. They were like, oh, that's helpful. I was like, I'm glad you think so. But
there's a reason for it.
exactly.
Oh,
But yeah, it was fun.
good. Um, what were some of the feelings and expectations you had heading out on your own for the first time? You guys are living away from family now. You don't have brothers or even at your school or sisters or anything like that. Some of you knew some people at your schools, but what were some of the feelings you guys had about heading out to your own? And are they matching your expectations?
I was terrified. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know if I can do this, but it's been not as terrifying because everybody else is kind of terrified as well. So you're living with a lot of people your age who also don't know what they're doing. So it's not that bad. And then you just gotta know how to ask a lot of questions that you never thought you'd be asking. You're like, how do I do taxes? And I don't know how to do this. And Dad, please help me with insurance. And and you write to him and you realize it's midnight in Poland and you won't get a response until tomorrow. And it's like there's stuff like that. But I think it's been easier than I expected it to be, but there's still things that scare me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fair.
So as scary as you expected it, like, is it, you sound like you came in like, and like level 10 kind of scared. I don't know if that's really where you were, but you make it sound that way. And you're finding maybe it's only like a 5 scary or
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's certain things that I like that I don't know how to do that still overwhelm me. But I learned how to do it and then I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's just it's a lot at once. That's all.
Yeah.
Friend of mine,
Because-
Maggie Hunter, has been sending out emails asking people what should MKs know before they come back from overseas. What are some practical skills and things like that? Michaela, what are some of those that you've had to learn that you're like, oh, it would have been great if I'd have known this ahead of time?
I don't know. I can't think of anything now.
On the spot.
It's so hard because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you think of things that you've had to ask people for help for? They're like, you don't know how to do that, or
No, not at the moment. I know there's been moments, but not at the moment.
Fair enough. We kind of put those away, right? Aletheia, what was your feelings about coming back, and how is that meeting reality in school?
I think it was really, it's been interesting kind of seeing how reality and then what I was worried about like line up or not line up. Because I'd already been something my parents did, which was super, super good. It was probably one of the best things that I could have done, was the summer between my junior year of high school and my senior year of high school. I actually came back to the States for like 2 months. And stayed with some friends in Arizona and just kind of nannied their kids and hung out at their house, and it was really fun. And so that was really nice because I got to have like a little bit of a peek at what American culture was like now, because it had been a lot of things had happened since my last furlough. Like Trump was still president at the time, COVID hadn't happened yet. Like there was just a whole bunch of like large scale political climate and just social climate stuff that hadn't happened. So being able to come back as like COVID was starting to ease was really helpful. And kind of gave me a picture of like, okay, this is what it could be like going into college. Which was nice because it gave me more like confidence, like, okay, I'm going to be okay living on my own. I'm going to be okay staying in a dorm and sharing a room with somebody. I'm going to be okay doing my own, like figuring out how to do my own laundry, getting food. I can figure out, because I have diet problems, figuring out what food I can eat here and how to cook and what breakfast options are available to me. So like having some of that ahead of time really made my life easier. The things I was most scared about actually I've already had to do almost all of. By now, I think I had done almost all of them by like October. I started school in August. That was exciting because like my biggest worries were my parents are going to be gone and I'm going to get sick. And if some emergency is going to happen, I'm not going to know how to find healthcare. I'm not going to, like, my credit card will turn off and I'll have to figure out that mess. And so both of those things have happened. I've had to call the bank several times, which is always so much more, like they're always super nice, but I'm always dreading that phone call. Like I like put it off for like forever. And then I did get really sick one time. There was a cold going around and I got it really bad. And so I had to figure out how to get to the school nurse, which thankfully we have because there's so many international students on campus or MKs that the school was like, yes, we need a nurse who can take care of these people. So that was helpful. But a lot of my like fears were just about life stuff, like what do I do in the case of this bad event? And so far God's been faithful and it all worked out. And then there were people who were like, yes, if this happens again, I'll help you, or we'll do it this way, or
That's
like I
great.
can still help you figure this out, which was really nice.
That's good. I think one of the things I heard you saying there, Aletheia, and I think Michaela, you kind of alluded to this, but when you get to those places where you need help, finding and knowing who those right people are to ask, that seems to be a big issue for you guys, right?
Yeah.
How are you guys tackling that problem, or how do you determine who you're going to ask when it's 3 o'clock in the morning in Poland, or the internet's down in Cameroon and you can't call dad or mom? What criteria, what goes through your mind? How do you sort that out?
For me, probably my next phone call would be one of my older brothers or my grandfather. My grandparents live pretty close by, and I'm there almost every weekend. So if anything were to happen to me, I'd probably call him.
Very good.
Nice.
So feel like you got easier access there, and that's been helpful for you. Good.
Yeah.
If you had something on campus or things of that nature, what are you using to determine? I mean, are you tapping into the roommate, or you got someone down the hallway, or on campus people? How are you identifying the helpers there?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure I would probably think of somebody. It would depend on the situation.
Yeah.
And what I needed.
Depending on your best friend Siri a lot, I'm guessing.
No.
No, Siri doesn't know the answers to
Yeah,
TCK
we've
problems.
established that.
He told us
She
that
gets
in the warm-up.
confused.
Not understand.
Yeah, no, I guess I differ from Michaela because so I'm in Arkansas, quote unquote home base for my family is Arizona. My closest relative is 12 hours away, I think, by drive, and they're in Indiana, so you just go straight up. So it was definitely a jump coming to Arkansas and being like, okay, I will know no one. I will have one friend on campus, and that is who I haven't talked to in a couple of years. Like, this is going to be exciting. But I think the beauty of my school is because it's a private Christian school and they are kind of catering to their MKs on campus. Like, they work really hard to make sure that they get here and are taken care of. They've set up a system for, like, if you need help with something, they actually have a couple who live like just barely off campus, like right next door to campus. It's like a 5-minute walk from my dorm to their house, and who can help you in an emergency. And then, like, right now my parents are on furlough, so I can still pick up the phone, and they're a couple hours behind me, so they're pretty much always awake right now, which is nice. But then it's like 2 a.m. and I'm like, they're like, why are you up? And I'm like, well, homework, question mark. But so that's nice. But like, I know that as they're leaving, I have to like reorder, like, okay, so I can call my uncle, who's like listed as my emergency contact right now. And then I've got these people who, if it's like this level emergency, I can call them. And then there's some upperclassmen on campus who've just been kind of like, freshmen, I'm going to take care of you. And I'm like, okay, great. So having them around is also really nice because, and none of that was really something I did. It was just kind of God being like, you have been really stressed about this, so I'm going to take away that burden and give you people who can help take care of you, which is, I feel very blessed by.
That's fantastic.
That's beautiful.
Having and identifying those people who can help and help you work through new things, new environments, so critical for a good transition. And it's also can be embarrassing and terrifying to ask for that help too.
Yeah.
So good for you guys and finding your peoples, and I'm sure you'll continue to find more. The question I had though for you guys is, your passport says that you're Americans. How American do you guys feel?
0 to 10. 10 being like, I am so
10 being
American.
a Texan?
No, Texans are Texans, not Americans first, right?
So Boston, like a Bostonian.
Bostonian, yeah, sure. I was just gonna say 10 being like, I have the Constitution tattooed on my arm, and 0 being, I'm not sure they're gonna renew my passport ever again.
Oh no. Oh.
I think this pause here is actually very significant. And I hope people like parents and stuff who just saw that pause there, there's conflict there, right? So unpack that a little bit. How are you dealing with your nationality, if you will?
I feel like I've realized I'm less American than I thought I was.
Mm.
Like, I've come here and there's so many like tiny little things I nitpick. I'm like, people aren't formal enough. People aren't this enough. And it just bothers me. And I'm like, this is so Polish of me that this bothers me. So I don't know. But then on the other hand, there's like some weird Wisconsin part of me that was slightly awoken, perhaps. That like every day
You didn't know you had such a love for cheese curds?
like no, I didn't realize the weird one is I didn't realize I would say "ope" that much, but I do. I say it all the time. "Ope," yeah. Wisconsin, I say "ope." They go "ope." Sometimes I say it way too often.
Oh, so that's where I got that. I just had a friend from Wisconsin. Good to know.
Oh, all right.
So it's a Midwestern thing.
Oh, that
But there's
explains it.
like, I don't know, some little thing. I feel like I'm becoming more American day by day, but I kind of don't want to be
Yeah.
Those are
American.
some significant things there, Michaela. You just said that you're not as American as you thought you were, and you're not sure you want to be. And those are
Yeah.
big things from a passport, like U.S.
And from a parent's perspective too, I would think, like,
Mm.
your parents are solidly American. As much as they love Poland and they love the Polish people, right? They're still very American.
I would say
So-
Aletheia's parents. Your dad was actually served, right?
Yeah, my
No.
dad served in the National Guard. My parents are interesting because they grew up in Arizona. They grew up in like so 80s Arizona, Phoenix, like Phoenix, downtown Phoenix, Arizona, was one of the most dangerous, like their neighborhood growing up was one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. And we're one of the border states. So Arizona in particular is just a very racially and nationally diverse location. Like my mom's high school, she said that the white kids were the minority. Which has just given my parents a very interesting and unique experience, I guess, as Americans.
No.
But they're still very American about a lot of things, which is just really interesting. But
for
it's
you,
been interesting.
how does that play out?
I think in some ways it's hard because there are certain parts of like America, like a friend of mine here in college is from Arizona. And so the two of us will like relate over that a lot and kind of tease the kids from other states about their state, especially because there's some Californians. And so the Arizonans and the Californians like to make fun of each other. And so that part of me is just very like, yes, I can embrace the like parts of the state rivalry culture or parts of the we're gonna tease this group because of them really liking this thing or really appreciating this food, or like being able to pick like embrace that part of the culture has been really easy. And it helps because my mom's very much a food person. And so her comfort foods were like Mexican food, basically. So I ate a lot of Mexican food, and that was just kind of part of me growing up overseas because beans were very readily accessible. So we just ate a lot of beans and just cook them more Mexican style than Cameroon style. So that's not much of a shift. but it's weird because sometimes it still feels like I'm an imposter. Like might act and sound a little more American than some of my friends who are also making this transition. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, like I'll slip up and miss something, or I still need help with stuff, or I don't quite like, I understand why they're acting the way they do, but that is not my inclination. Or I just approach conflict differently, and I'm just like, okay, so I act like I should belong here, but I don't actually feel like I should belong here.
Yeah.
And it depends on like what part, like that day or in that circumstance, how much of the culture I'm embracing, which is
Yeah.
just really interesting.
Talk about patriotism on in regards to especially Gen Z and Alpha, as saying patriotism is on the decline as far as loyalty to country in general. Do you resonate that with that too, or do you feel patriotic, or do you feel like you could grow into that, like with more time? Do you guys feel like that?
Or how do you define patriotism in
That's
America?
what I was gonna ask.
That's right.
Um, how are we defining patriotism, Brett?
Patriotism, I think, in the general sense of being loyal to the country as a brand. Now, granted, our country is a whole lot of something right now, so, but the concept, that maybe the ideals, uh, it as a nation, nationalism, if you will. Uh, do you feel proud of your country, so to speak?
So, so if you had asked me, I would have defined um patriotism as I want my country to do right and to be right. And I'm proud of being an American because we do right and we are right in these circumstances. Whereas nationalism says my country is right,
Yeah,
period,
period.
the end, no matter what, right? It's a complete sentence. But I think good patriotism says my country can improve here.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my country and I want it to improve here. That's my take on it. So you can
I
answer
think
whoever's definition you want.
I think Cheryl's definition is probably the one I relate to more. And if we're going off that definition, then I feel very patriotic towards both Cameroon and the US.
Yes.
Like, I feel like if you're going to be patriotic by that definition, just look at the World Cup and you ask somebody, who are you cheering for the World Cup this year?
And your answer is?
Both, because then neither US or Cameroon will probably end up playing each other. So I will have to choose.
You can hope. We could dream.
But in that sense, it's like I love my country and I see a lot of things that they're doing well. But my heart still breaks over the things. Yeah, Brazil's gonna do really well. And it's annoying because I think
Cameron's
I'm
gonna shout out to
in their
Brazil.
pool and I'm annoyed about it. So I want the US to succeed and I want them to like, I see all the good that, like, the rich history that's there and the rich legacy and inheritance that as an American I've received, and I'm very grateful for that. But because of how they're currently interacting on the world stage, it's really hard sometimes to be able to like I'm always going to claim, yes, I'm American, but it's like I will often quantify that or clarify that, and immediately be like, yes, I'm American, but that doesn't make me responsible for something my country's doing. And like, because people will come talk politics to you and blame all of your country's problems on you, and you're like, I haven't lived there ever. Like,
it's not my fault. I wasn't there. Nobody asked me.
I wasn't even old enough to vote.
Well, I am now, but
Did you vote?
no. Like, I'm in Arkansas. I don't know how to get a ballot from Arizona. I'll figure this out next year.
There you go.
I've been in the country for 6 months. I don't know what's going on.
Michaela, how about you? Patriotism, where's that fit for you?
Like Allie, I'm probably patriotic to both, I guess. I
Mhm.
always felt like, definitely in Poland, I could notice this more. I always felt like I was more patriotic about Poland than most of my peers.
Then your
It
Polish
was inter
peers?
Yeah, my Polish peers. I think because I was just sort of attached to it in a different way
Mhm.
than they were. And they're generally usually not happy with Polish politics. Not that Polish politics are all that great right now, but they were unhappy about a lot of things, and I just be like, "Yay, Poland, my home," you know. But I feel like I was also more patriotic about the States in Poland, and I might be more patriotic about Poland in the States. Like I'm just proud of the opposite where I'm at, maybe just because
Yeah.
it's like the difference,
Mhm.
the non-conforming one, like
You're the
I'm
perpetual
Polish.
ambassador. Is that right? It is the perpetual
Mhm.
ambassador.
Sure, I guess so.
Always
I think there's,
advocating for where you're not.
yeah, I think there's two things. One is that, like there's always something about the other place, right? That pulls you when you're not there. You're like, oh yeah, I didn't realize how good that was, or maybe I did and I missed it.
Mhm.
But then there's the thing. I had a friend write his master's thesis, and he talked about MKs aligning themselves with the thing that is not,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? So it's like, it's not a matter of the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. It doesn't exist here. Like
No.
I need there's a hole, right? And I know where to fill that hole.
No.
So, which I think is a great thing. Like Brett said, to be that ambassador for,
Mhm.
we could do it this way and it would work.
No. If you guys want to listen to this playback, I didn't mention it because I didn't want to mess you up at the time. But if you listen back to them as they described their patriotism, sometimes they referred to the America as they, and sometimes as we. And it was interesting. Like even in your sentences, you're flipping we, they, we, they, we, they, and I just think that beautifully articulated the allegiances you that conflict that's going on there. Here's a hard question I want to throw at you. Do you see yourself living in America for the rest of your life?
No.
No.
Some questions are hard to answer and some are quick answers, but unpack that a
It's
little bit. Michaela, why not?
I don't know. I got here and I was like, I'm not staying here. Not at No, thank you. I'm also in nursing and I kind of hate the healthcare system here just a little bit. Um, but I don't know. I've always wanted to see more of the world, so I would love to have traveling actually be part of my career.
So let me re-ask the question then for you. Could you see yourself calling America home and just traveling frequently? Or do you see yourself ever being able to in a few years put down, like, I hate to say permanent roots, but that idea of
No, I don't it might, like there's a sliver of chance that that might change
mm,
if I'm become somehow more attached to this place. Both of my older brothers are still in the States living,
mhm.
and like they've definitely become more American and would probably say that they're less Polish now. But I don't think I can see myself changing in that way.
Mm. Well, where are you at in this process, Aletheia?
Oh, it's so complicated. Because I've kind of gotten to the place where it's like I don't know where I'm going to wind up, but I don't
Mhm.
want to stay here, and I don't know where I want to go.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of stuck. So for right now, yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in this particular location in the US. It's kind of fun,
Mhm.
being in Arkansas. I was like, school in Arkansas. What's in Arkansas? Actually, I got that question from other people there too. Like they're like, "What's in Arkansas?" I was like, "Walmart headquarters." I don't know. But it's also really cool because I'm seeing a very unique side of the US and just people that I haven't gotten to see before. But long term, I don't know where I would go, but I don't know if I could stay here.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'd have to either move to a different part of the US that's just very culturally different, or have to, like, I would just have to go to a different country. And that's very interesting because the part of the career I want to have is publishing books. And it's hard to publish books when you're not in the country you're trying to publish a book from. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah. And it's always interesting to me, especially for people like both of you who are newer back, fresher off the boat, if to misuse a term in your context. Just the difficulty of willingness to accept that this might be a place that you stay, and wanting to be somewhere, but not sure where that place is. And so that conflict. And over the years, I see that TCKs who have been back for a longer period of time eventually kind of acquiesce or adapt and gain larger ownership, but it takes a significant amount of time, I think. So, and not to say that that's the answer either. Travel and moving, that's not a bad thing either. At this point, I'm going to ask your parents to turn off the video if they're watching, because I'm going to ask the question to y'all for the hopes of inspiring maybe other parents. Is there things that your parents could have done better, or could have better understood about you going through transitions that you parents, please understand this. This is something I would like to get off my chest, or I don't know. Whoa. Dealing with parents in
Because
particular.
your parents aren't third culture,
Yeah.
so they've never experienced the transition in the same way you have. It's not parent bashing.
No.
No. I guess for me, it's keeping, like, I have a lot of siblings, and we've all done transition differently our entire lives. Generally there's like a trend in one direction or the other, and then there's the one sibling who's an outlier. But in whatever, like, either I want to stay or I want to go or whatever. And I guess I wish my parents had paid a little more attention to how, which is hard when you have a lot of kids who are in a lot of broad range of ages. I wish they'd paid a little more attention to how each of us approaches transition differently, and how we all interact with the places we're transitioning to and from differently, because we're all at different stages in life. And our timelines are all different. So, like, I don't know, for me, this transition has just been very different from my siblings because they're just on furlough. They're just on home assignment. I'm stuck. So I know, like, I have, like, it's just going to be a very different time scale of realizing I'm not going to get to go back again and again as things hit. But my siblings have that I get to go back. Or at least I'm not stuck here right now. And even like with other life changes over the years, because yes, we stayed in one country, but we moved around in that country a lot. And just with other things, my parents were like, but we did do that thing. And I was like, yes, but the way you did that was good for my siblings. And I need it done again now, a couple years later, because for me, my timeline's different.
That's right.
And so I needed the time to let process internally for a long time, and then open up and debrief, or process it a little different, or process with someone else. And
So one size doesn't fit all for the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Just because we give you advice doesn't mean it'll work with every kid. And I mean, you see that with potty training too. Like, not every potty training trick works with every 3-year-old. Not every transition trick will work with every TCK. That's just, we're people, we're different.
You know,
College kid, potty train.
Hey, they cry and we watch a lot of movies and eat a lot of candy. Is there a difference? I don't think so.
Less laundry.
Oh my
Ah,
goodness.
you're right. You're right. Less laundry. That's the difference.
Like Kayla, fair warning, I think your dad might actually be on here.
Yeah,
So,
I know he's here.
so as you share with
He's all
care.
right. He's far away. He can't reach him.
He can't get
Exactly.
me. I guess kind of what Aletheia said. My parents have
Your
seen.
dad's like, we can leave. No, you can stay.
Please stay, Randy. Just go la 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 la.
I don't know, I feel like there may have been certain things I expected of me by watching how my brothers managed.
Mm,
I may have but my brothers were two very different um spectrums of moving back. My oldest brother had a really hard time. He had to switch colleges. He had to take a semester off. He struggled. My other brother, he seems fine, and he's always seemed fine. And I don't know. I guess he is fine. If you ever try to talk to him about it, he's like, "Yeah, no, it's all good." And you're like,
mm,
"Really? Like how?"
yeah.
So they may have expected me to be okay, and I talk to them probably a lot more than my brothers do in a sort of very open way about what I'm dealing with, and they just listen. Sometimes they give good advice. They do. My mom usually gives me good advice, a lot of the time.
She's trying to angle in there for a good Christmas present right now. I can see it.
True. I talk to my mom a lot. We are good friends.
So, yeah, that's fantastic. Let me ask you maybe just one last final question tonight. I don't see anybody writing any questions in there, so I think we'll probably wrap up with this one. But how much do you? Well, let me a pre-question before the final question. How much do you identify with being a TCK, a third culture kid? Like scale from 1 to 10, or a lot, a little. At times I do, at times I don't.
I'd say a lot. For me, it was sort of the thing that I latched on to be able to have an identity. Because I'm like, I'm not Polish, I'm not American, I don't know what I am, I'll be a TCK. And so I kind of grabbed onto it. So it means a lot to me. This is what I am, this is what I am, please accept me as that, So I might not be it in all the ways other people are. You definitely see a lot of variation between third culture kids. It's a huge group of variation.
Yeah.
But I sort of taken it as this is an important
Okay.
way to
So you
identify
connect
myself.
with it more
Yeah.
in large part. Aletheia, how about you? Where's your connection to that?
I also connect with it a lot. Like I heard the definition of a third culture kid probably, I don't know, I was 13 or so at like a Wycliffe family care thing in Florida. And they were like, this is a third culture kid. And here's some resources. And 13-year-old me was like, that explains everything.
There's a cure.
Like, that book, you're an MK when, and then it has the little, I read that from cover to cover and I laughed my entire way through.
Yeah.
And it was, yes, that. I was like, yes, this is hilarious. But on a much deeper note, a lot of times, especially growing up in Cameroon, which is an African country, and everyone looked very different from me. It was hard because I wasn't Black enough, I wasn't African enough to be an African. But then I come back, exactly, shocking. Even though it was also hard because little kids would call me white man, and I'm like, I've been in this town longer than you've been alive. I know when you were born. What?
Oh.
So that was kind of hard. And then coming back, I don't get immediately the pop culture and I don't fit in. And so it felt like this I'm neither fish nor fowl kind of interaction, being given Yeah, exactly. We were both part of Connect. Although I got dragged on kicking and screaming. It's fine. And then I got there and loved it. But
For those who are
getting
listening, that someone wrote in a comment that they were both part of TCK Connect, so they probably connect with that. But let me push the last question because we are a little bit over time here. My question is, do you feel like that TCK identity that you're resonating with, is it stronger when you're stateside or stronger overseas or equally? I'm just curious, how do you find like that's more prominent now, your identity with that this side, especially with the finishing, so to speak?
I think it just varies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like in Cameroon, I felt like that was definitely more of like an undercurrent, this is who I am part
Mhm.
of me. And then I get here and it's just much louder.
Okay. I like the way you explained
Um,
that. That was beautiful. Michaela, how about you?
I feel like I don't know. It's a little bit. It might be quieter more because weirdly, it's where I am. I have to explain it. Like nobody's ever heard the term. So I'm at this point, I'm more like whatever. I
yeah.
don't feel like explaining myself anymore. I'm tired, so think of me as whatever. But in Poland, it was like more people sort of got it. I don't know why.
Hmm. I guess my question more, Michaela, is does it resonate strong, whether others identify you that way or not? Does the profile, does the tendencies, is it stronger? Do you feel it connects to you deeper on this side versus the other side of the ocean?
I think it's pretty equal.
Okay, good. All right.
That's
Well,
fair.
fantastic. You ladies have been fabulous. I love your vulnerability and your honesty and your sharing, and some good stories and good laughs too. And I think this will be our first and hopefully last episode with a tornado drill. That was fun.
I'm so sorry.
Better a drill than the real thing.
I know. I thought it
It's
was a
very
real
true.
thing.
I'm on the 4th floor, so I feel like I would have seen it coming, but
Anyways, thank you both for joining us. And for those of you guys who are joining us online, please join us for our last episode of season 6 with Megan Norton coming up. She shares about her book and learning beyond borders, learning to belong beyond borders. So looking forward to having that. And if you want to learn about TCK Connect, sorry, I'll flip around that. It's our online hangout for TCKs. So we have youth, and then we might be able to kick off another young adult group as well. Love to have them come on. They're free, and we just hang out and talk, laugh, and it's a place of
Play
community.
silly games.
Play silly games for the
it's
younger
worth
group.
it.
Yeah,
Even if you're cynical,
even
just
if
try
you're
it
cynical,
out.
even if you don't.
I was cynical and I loved it.
We
So
we've had parents literally have to sit on the other side of the computer to force their kids to sit there, and usually after like 15, 20 minutes, and the parents can leave, and their kids are like, okay,
I just got dragged on by a very convincing friend.
there you go.
I
Well,
got dragged down by a friend too.
yeah. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of TCK Live. Hope to see you again. And this will be posted online if you want to watch it or share it with your friends on our interaction webpage, or you can find it on Facebook Live, or even I'm putting them up on YouTube now too. So thank you all for joining us. Michaela and Aletheia, stick around for a little bit because we need to chat with you for just a few. But those who joined, thank you so much. See you. Oh, your dad's still on.
Hi, Randy.
Oh, he just took off.
I love Michaela's though.
Oh, is that right?
So one of my interns
Hold on a
one
second.
year.
Kristen and Jamie, thank you for joining us. I'm going to invite you to explore. We play a game called Executioner where I kick you out. Oh, there they go. That was all it took. Just the threat. There we go.
Was executioner. The threat.
Michaela's like executioner.
No,
Yeah.
that's threatening me now.
All right.
Oh,
Locked
no.
webinar is just us. Oh, I got to stop the recording.